Welcome back to Operation Freedom, folks. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker linked to remain Freedom Bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. Here live for you every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. Also available 24/7 at davejanda.com. Extra shows, content, guests, analysis, archives to all of our shows available at davejanda.com. In fact, part of our subscription series, in addition to our email service we provide to all of our subscribers at davejanda.com, we have our WTF show, the What the Fudge show, as my Uncle Jimmy used to say, What the Fudge family, about information that I gleaned from my contacts I've developed over 35 years that we present on a video format show that I host every Wednesday of content that I cannot provide on the radio or on any social media platform of what's really going on. Then we have our Insider Insight show where I bring a guest forward from behind the curtain where we discuss, again, issues that cannot be discussed on the radio or on any social media platform. We have our Department of Advanced Research show hosted by my next guest, Nick Ruiz, who's also wears the hat of our Director of Information Technology. You know, if it were not for Nick and his team, our platform would be drastically different. And Nick can address this, but I truly believe our platform at davejanda.com and Operation Freedom is one of the most, if not the most secure platforms on the internet. And I know that's a big statement, but I think Nick can delve into that a little further. But also the quality of the content we provide and guests that we have. You know, Nick's Department of Advanced Research show, Nick, many months ago, in real time on his show, actually showed how a database, such as maybe like an election database, can be not only hacked, not only manipulated, but make it look like somebody did it who wasn't even there. What he does with that platform is incredible, and there's no other platform on the internet that has the content, the level of expertise, and the information technology behind it. It is my honor to welcome back Nick Ruiz. Nick, welcome back.
Hey, Doc. Thanks for having me back on.
Okay, so Nick, was that an overstatement about the davejanda.com and Operation Freedom?
Well, no. I mean, we do. We go through great pains. Yesterday, I'll tell you later about that, but in setting up some of the infrastructure for what we do here, had a bit of an eventful day yesterday. But no, it's a heck of an effort that goes into keeping, all of our stuff online working as intended. So everybody goes to davejanda.com and everything automatically works. And that goes for any website, certainly not just us. Any of the sites that are popular with the Operation Freedom audience, just know that somewhere, in addition to producing the content that you see, there's somebody there that's got to keep all the wheels turning and the gears kind of running nice and smoothly. And it's not always easy, especially in the day and age where, everything's so hyper politicized and people are willing to take such extreme action, certainly even digitally, either to amplify or silence voices and stuff like that. So it's unfortunately not the internet of 2002, 2003, which is where I first started to learn about this stuff, where, there was always that political element to it, but it certainly wasn't anything in the same zip code as it is today.
So, Nick, didn't you recently interact with some people from a very well-known hack team to say, all right, gang, let's see if you can crack the code at what we do on our platform? Didn't you recently do that?
We did. I won't mention the company that they work for, but suffice to say that a lot of us have the emails that are associated with that company. But that being said, I'm thankful to call several members of one of their many red teams, very close personal friends of mine, and in addition to Operation Freedom, I've started to transition to something that's becoming exceedingly more popular day by day, and it's great to see. And I would encourage anybody that has the wherewithal, the ability, or even the interest to do it, because the resources out there are almost limitless to do so, is start to transition to self-hosting, which is be your own data center, be your own service provider. So folks that rely on external services that may or may not have a political agenda or just for your own personal privacy or your own amusement, believe it or not. You can learn quite a bit in doing it. I've started to transition towards self-hosting, but with that comes a bit of risk because you are the data center. Now, Doc, you've seen what lives in my coat closet, and I have realized a dream I've had since I've been about 9 years old, which is to be my own data center. And that's kind of taken shape over the last number of weeks. My other half is thrilled about it, loves the aesthetic of it. It's perfect. But no, I did ask several friends of mine to, guys, do me a favor, have a peek around, do a little port scan action, do a little DNS action, and make sure that it is secure. Make sure you can't see anything you're not supposed to see. Because, again, you're dealing with your own personal, in many instances, you're dealing with your own personal router IP, your own ISP. So there is inherent risk that comes with that. And so I had several folks do that, and they kind of gave it they did the nasty on it. And while they were at it, I said, hey, would you do me a favor? There's Red Bull in it for you, so there's a little self-motivation. Do me a favor. I said, can you take a look at Operation Freedom as well? And they did, and we got the same result back. So, which is now we can't see anything that we're not supposed to see. There's no way in. That shouldn't be in. And look, that's not to say it's hack-proof. Nothing is. Anybody that tells you it is lying to you. There's only, they're either lying to you or they've unplugged it from the switch or the router, because that's the only way that's going to be ever going to be hack-proof. But for purposes of an online resource, we got a clean bill of health from some folks that. Ethical hacker is a word that might be used. Pen tester is another word that might be used. But these guys are very, very, very good at what they do. They do it for a household name company. And Operation Freedom got the clean bill of health, which is pretty damn impressive considering how far the reach is and how many ins and outs there are there. So we're doing as good as anybody can.
Nick, you were listening to the show earlier today, and one of the things you've already talked about is putting the time and effort, and if you will, running your own operation, whatever it might be. So we were having a discussion with Dr. Karlin Borshenko earlier today, and she had spoken about one of the things parents could do to help their kids is try to limit their time on the internet, possibly even taking their cell phones away or their access to the internet. So, Nick, I'm going to put you in a very uncomfortable position, as Uncle Nick, let alone Parent Nick. Imagine that. So let's say your neighbor comes over to your house this afternoon and says, Nick, I'm not happy with what my kid's doing on the internet and their use of the cell phone. And what do I do to pry that cell phone away from them? Or what do I do to limit their access on the internet or make sure that they're not going to sites that are going to get them in trouble? So other than telling that person, hey, just get your kid a 6-pack of Red Bull and a carton of cigarettes and let them entertain themselves, what would you tell them to do as it relates to the phone and the internet issues?
Well, first of all, that last plan, it works. It may not be popular, but I'm living proof that it works. But as far as as far as prying the internet away and trying to shield them from that, I'm going to take a somewhat controversial stance on this one, Doc. So Uncle Nick might not be the most popular person at Thanksgiving dinner, but then again, whenever has he been? No. Here's the thing: don't. You're going to kneecap your kids. Don't. We live in a day and age of speed and information. Let them develop the immunity to BS now. Otherwise, what's going to happen? We live where truth went out the window a long time ago, right? The internet is subject to the human condition, unfortunately. Now, if there was a magic filter, I could flip the switch that kept all irrational logic and or lack thereof in nature out of it. Yeah, of course I would. But for now, if you're going to say, okay, no, stay off the internet so you don't have you don't even get these ideas in your head or whatever, what happens when they reach the age where you can't do that anymore? There's going to be this torrent. There's going to be this torrent of taking everything on the internet as being true. You haven't developed the requisite skill set to go, oh, that's BS or that's clickbait or that's not going to work. That, it's kind of the equivalent. It's almost like a vaccine, Doc. I know it's a terrible analogy to make, but there's something to be said for the natural human immune system, and you've been a huge proponent of that. We live in a day and age where somebody can have an idea in a town or a city or a country or a place that you've never heard of, And that can be accepted as truth within a matter of hours. Mm-hmm. This isn't, channel 2, 4, 7, 9, 11, and 13, and if the president's on, you're going to miss Flipper. We don't live in those days anymore. Mm-hmm. We live in a day of decentralized, literally hyper-fast information. And if you took somebody now that had never seen the internet in their 20s, and you just all of a sudden gave them access to it, they're going to be like a crackhead on there. It's going to be this new and amazing thing, and it's going to be leaving a crackhead in charge of the evidence locker. Don't. Bad idea. So to try to shield them from that, what I would do is, and again, Uncle Nick, Mr. Unpopular here, and I live for it, is as such. Here's an idea. Go crazy. Go nuts. But encourage logical, rational thinking. As soon as they see something, show it to you. Go through it with them. Tear it apart from a completely emotionless perspective of, how does this make sense? How does that make sense? You think this might serve an interest that isn't in your interest? Teach the critical thinking, because they're sure as hell not going to do it in school. I don't believe that's allowed anymore. That actually might be considered a frickin' thought crime at this point. Right? But True. Develop the skill set to be able to spot BS and propaganda and clickbait, and otherwise you're going to kneecap the thought process. The end product of that is gullible, and the end result of it's going to be 10 times worse, because it's going to create the easiest in ever, which is, this is why your parents were shielding you from the truth, and you don't have anything else to kind of go by. So you're creating sort of a thought vacuum there. And, look, when I was growing up, I don't know if this is still true, but being a kid from Long Island, all the kids that went to Catholic school and everything, the minute they got to college, they were the biggest party animals in history. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it goes. So, I personally wouldn't, and that's just my humble opinion on it. I don't have children, Doc. Shockingly, I know, right? No, I personally wouldn't. I just think you're setting up, that's a recipe for disaster. It's just teach the critical thinking skills, and I don't know if it can be taught, Doc, but if you could, teach a little cynicism in there. It'll go a long way, because we've seen it, with everything. We've seen it with what's going on in Gaza. We've seen it in reference to the election. There are a lot of people out there that'll make noise just for the sake of clicks and attention. We live in the attention clout economy. And if you're not aware of that, and you're around kids, let's be honest, raising children, if you're around kids they're going to be light years ahead of you.
Mm-hmm. As you've also mentioned in the past, Nick, you can, if you really want to do something with the internet and access, you can block their time on your household router. You can whitelist numbers or sites, correct?
Yeah. See, the way I would do it, Doc, now this is kind of my take. Again, talk about controversial. I would turn it into a learning experience. I would block everything except for, whitelist, mom and dad's number, whatever the case may be. So it's still, you kill that safety argument that you made, which was very clever, Doc. You kill that and go, okay, internet's blocked, and wait and see how long it takes them, if they can, to figure out a way around it, because there are ways. If they figure out how to circumvent it and VPN around it or proxy around it, hey, congratulations, you're the smartest kid in the room. You're a winner. Resourcefulness, right? Because I don't think, Doc, at the end of the day, and I'm being a little facetious there, but because 9-year-old, 10-year-old Nick, if he had access to the internet, you took it away, Doc, I'd be SSH tunneling through that stuff. Forget it. I'd be in Cheyenne Mountain by now. But in all seriousness, Doc, I don't think that's the way. It's get a good, I always think of Clark Griswold. I just want to kind of do a Clark Griswold to go, hey kids, get a good look at the stupid. Let them see it. Let them see how ridiculous it is. Let them see that people do take a side or a position for just attention and clicks and clouts. Otherwise, you're going to be flying blind for no apparent reason, and that's not going to help anybody.
Well, and also on their computer, let's say on their laptop or on their phone, you can see their history, right? Their internet history. Yeah. So you can say, hey, let's look at come here. Let's look at the sites you went to today. Oh, look at that one. Hey, what'd you get out of that one? Huh? What was all that about? Yeah?
I mean, if there's a happy medium in there, I mean, if you want to do the spyware mom and dad thing, that's cool. Yeah. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, really, I would wait for them to bring it to me and show me something like Kellen Borchenko was saying, like, hey, this gender studies theory thing. All right, have a seat. Here we go. We're going to go through this. let's take it apart. Let's pick it apart and turn it into an exercise in rational thinking, because we don't need any more indoctrinated, emotional, irrational imbeciles. That job that department's full. What we do need is rational, independent, disconnected, emotionalist thinkers, because they're the ones that are ultimately going to save us. I mean, you can use Elon as an example. I mean, he's an extreme example, but his approach to a lot of this stuff has been they've had such a hard time trying to hem him in, because all he's doing, Doc, is it's not some superpower that he has. He's approaching stuff rationally, and it breaks both sides. And I've said for many years that was going to happen, and here we are. He's just approaching it the way a sane pragmatist would, and both sides look like he's just levitated, walked on water, and created fire on the hill. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Well, speaking of Elon, one of the issues he's spoken about, and you have spoken about for years on this platform, when people say artificial intelligence, AI. So, Nick, let's, and you and I had discussed this several days ago, but let's open this up for our listeners. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. Last time we spoke about artificial intelligence and elections. Let's talk about artificial intelligence in modern warfare.
You mean potentially one of the last bad decisions humanity will ever have the chance to make? That artificial intelligence in warfighting? Yeah. It's coming. Nothing I say here or nothing you say is going to change it, Doc. Militaries around the world, we've already seen it. I think there's an article recently on Zero Hedge that talks about the Israelis using AI in a target designation, selection, location, and operative capacity. That is one of, if not perhaps the Pandora's box that a lot of the folks that have been critical of AI, not from a we should never do it, but, guys, let's think before we act, maybe. That's the ultimate example of what they're talking about, which is at what point in time do you actually remove, and I know this is going to sound a bit Skynet, it's going to sound a little Terminator 2, but I think James Cameron was onto something, there's a little nuggets of truth in film occasionally, or at least there used to be before that was deemed illegal. There's nuggets of truth in there. Is at what point in time do you remove the human decision-making process from something as serious as warfighting, medicine, law enforcement, any civic service, right? At what point in time does that become a pure effort in algorithmic logic? Now, am I necessarily against that? Not in every instance, but in terms of warfighting and being able to push a button and have the War-O-Matic 9000 just do its thing, that's dangerous. That is and I hate to use this phrase, it's one of my least on the internet, it's up there with red pill, but it's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down, because you're operating under the assumption that humans will always have control or ultimate influence over that system, and that may not always be the case, and that may not be as far off as people really seem to think it is, or would prefer to think it is, or believe it is. So you have to start to think, and those are the folks that are the most critical of those types of systems. That's what they're trying to implore. They know nothing they say is ever going to have any effect on whether or not Lockheed Martin, Booz Allen, Raytheon, or any of them, Boston Dynamics, goes ahead with that. Of course they're going to. Look at the dollars associated with it. Nothing you say is going to change that. But the folks that are really capable of designing and engineering and building these systems, they're the ones that are kind of going, guys, maybe we should take 5 and think, no? Okay, screw it. Let's go. There's folks that are out there that are kind of, and Elon's one of them, going we could and should are two different things.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact,
and I think that's something we're going to find out the hard way. Is could and should. There is a difference. There always has been a difference. Be that you can look at Oppenheimer and Kalashnikov with the AK-47 and things that have been invented where they step back and go, "Oh man, I wonder if I should have just kept that one in my head." But it's an inevitability, and that's the philosophy that's being used now, is if I don't invent it, somebody else will. If we don't have it, somebody else will. So there's no rational thinker at the table. It's just mine's bigger. So, and that's going to do, like I said, it'll get to a point where, again, I'm Operation Freedom listeners, pay attention. That doesn't always mean humans will have control of that system, because the minute it decides to write its first line of code or augment, modify, or otherwise interoperate with itself, totally absent any human input, you're kind of sharing the planet with another life form. And I know that's controversial and unpopular, and certainly folks that are going to look at it from a theological perspective, I can already hear them screaming, and I can hear the torches and pitchforks, but it's an inevitability if it hasn't happened already.
Well, and in fact, you brought this up earlier, Nick, this article that was on Zero Hedge from Kyle Anzalone this morning. Israeli artificial intelligence, quote, assassination factory, end quote, plays central role now in the Gaza war. Tel Aviv has been relying on an AI program dubbed, quote, the gospel, end quote, to select targets in Gaza at a rapid pace. In past operations in Gaza, the Israeli Defense Force ran out of targets to strike. A statement by the Israeli Defense Force website says the Israeli military is now using the AI platform Gospel to produce targets at a fast pace. Well, Nick, okay, but can you, well, yeah, you can, but you can just see where this potentially is going. They lose control of this AI platform, and guess what, Nick?
So here's the thing. So that's being used in an intel capacity now. It is one bad decision away from catastrophe, and that is at some point in time, some enterprising mind like yours truly is going to go over there on behalf of an American defense contracting company with nothing but dollar signs in my eyes, and I'm going to go, hey, guys, check this out. You see those sweet MH6 Reaper drones you have over there? Yeah. I'll tell you what if we could plug maybe a very glorified API? What if we could plug the functionality of this AI target designation selection CNC triage system directly into there, so you don't need any of those pesky IDF pilots developing any conscience or morality? Yeah. What if you just push the button, the drone goes airborne, flies to the target, lasers it, puts a Hellfire on it or a 500-pound JDAM on it, depending upon which platform it is, and returns to base, and it can fly 24/7 in all-weather, day-night capability, strike or air superiority. Pretty cool, huh? You don't even need the meat in the cockpit anymore. So, even your capabilities insofar as maneuverability, altitude, and yada, 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 all becomes orders of magnitude greater than it once previously was, right? And you don't have to worry about training new pilots. And all they're going to go is sign us up. And I'm going to go, thank you very much. I'm going to go buy my own island with whatever it is that I make from putting that deal together. And then what I would have just inadvertently done is laid the embryo and sort of first several steps towards a truly autonomous warfighting system, which effectively, let's be honest again, and I hate film references, but it is an appropriate one, Skynet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.